Earl Sweatshirt is someone I've been following for a while, and I'm finally making a video on him after 23 episodes. Most of you who watch my videos like the analysis of themes that I make about these musicians rather than regurgitating news or history like a musical journalist. And I also want to say a huge thank you for continuing to watch these videos and leaving your thoughts below. It's great to see you guys be so passionate about these subjects like I am, and I'll definitely keep going. Now, we all know about the story of Earl, aka Thebe, a MySpace music prodigy, the teenager plucked from Odd Future and sent to a Samoan boarding school by his mother. Now, if you look at his childhood, you see an indication of talent, and this manifested by being willing to persist. It's ironic that he was sent to boarding school after releasing a critically acclaimed mixtape in Earl, which, while glorifying drug use and misbehavior, was one of his best works because it had superb wordplay and clever humor. Now, this is the manifestation of the willingness to persist and the innate talent he had. He was the definition of a modern entertainer, to be able to weave a narrative in a way that makes the listeners go, wow. The most interesting part really is that his mother, a professor of law, said her decision to send him away at the time went beyond music, and that it was very evident he was struggling mentally. That during the release of Earl, he was continuously showing behavior that to her was abnormal and erratic. To me, it showed that he was channeling Genuinity on his mixtape, but also partially represented the influence of Odd Future's other members. And when you think about it, to then go from that sort of environment where you're part of a rising music group to swimming with whales, gaining a scuba license and talking to therapists, it must be almost jarring, yet extremely therapeutic, and that's an interesting mix. And the moment when Earl stated that he never actually pictured the things he rapped about on Earl and how he used to detach imagery from words, that was quite surprising. And that interview kind of references a pivotal moment when he worked at the Samoa victim support group for victims of sexual abuse, including children. He said the moment was overwhelming on being faced with reality, that there is no defense for glorifying such things if you have an ounce of humanity. And to me, from my perspective, that can really be extrapolated to life. That the truth about something, whether it's perceived as being successful or acquiring the things you want, it's often far different than the fantasy and the pedestal we put those things on. That the reality of things in life are different because we as humans tend to overshadow the negative aspects of things for the sake of either entertaining ourselves or to make ourselves feel better. And that's quite important. Now, when he returned from Samoa, he chose to sign with Columbia and Sony, sacrificing much higher advances to be able to put the Odd Future logo on his work. I think the conversation he had with Andre 3000 that his mum organized definitely shaped his perspective about certain things. Even when he jumped off waterfalls in Samoa, he used to be afraid of doing so, but eventually he began to trust the process more and more. He says he now treats everything like that. If what you do day to day doesn't push you or test you, that's another day gone that you'll never get back. He says he treats that mentality as extremely important, and I think that's an extremely important mentality as well. I think each day is really another chance to understand who you are. If you don't do things that prove that, then what are you actually doing? Are you just going through the motions? Genuinity, a theme that I've already talked about, was something that he not only included in Spades and Doris, he also admitted that he can hear it in other people's music, such as Gucci Mane's, despite living a completely different lifestyle. He's someone who, back when Doris was released, hated the internet, saying it's made everyone dysfunctional with dual personalities, the internet and the real life persona. But he also admitted it was crucial for the rise of some of his musical heroes, such as Lil B. I think it's interesting how Earl hates attention, hates the spotlight, and he just wanted to use the platform to demonstrate who he was, and he never anticipated mobs of fans wearing Supreme trying to emulate the crew or being mobbed by them. By the time I Don't Go Outside dropped, it was no surprise that he was physically and mentally exhausted, to be honest. When he said emotion isn't logic to NPR around this time, that's what sort of made me realize that the album that he released then was about getting himself beyond the new reality he was in. It was about the double-edged sword that fame and the things we perceive really have. That meeting expectations consumes your being. And this isn't really easy to understand for someone like me who hasn't been through the same experience. The album was about self-realization, unbarred honesty, and also becoming transparent. It's a statement that, yes, okay, fine, we're not all gods and we are human. Anything that is abnormal, like having 100,000 people screaming your name, it has an effect on you, whether you like it or not. And on this album, I think Earl really pushes into that realm. And then 3 years of isolation and features later, and sparse features, shall I say, he releases some rap songs. It's an important mark, and it's a few months after the death of his poet father in January 2018. Earl said he wasn't trying to expand the definition of rap anymore. He was trying to go back to what it actually is, to understand from the past, from documentaries and things like that, and realize that all things in life are a matter of fact. Some rap songs is a reminder of subjectivity, which I covered in the Anthony Fantano video, but it's also a demonstration of how culture constantly evolves. To him, he avoids comparisons to his father, for example, who was, at 21, exiled from South Africa, while Earl, at 21, was performing at South by Southwest. Two different eras and two different things. It's important to kind of understand the lessons from the past, but applying them directly can often be confusing and seemingly impossible. By the time 2019 has rolled around, he's 24, and he's learned from the ups and downs that he's faced in the music industry. With the release of Feet of Clay, he makes a clear distinction between Earl and Thebe. That the Earl persona, which so many people flock to, is now an operation and not a definition of who he is. The album is also a reminder of the trauma that lives with him, but he's attempting to stand tall and learn more about the world beyond just touring and making music. I think we actually all go through that phase where we seek to understand more about our environment beyond the day-to-days we kind of face, when we finally realize how mundane our actions really are in the grand scheme of things. Now, I definitely don't think it's a bad thing, but we all definitely and probably get there at different times. Earl, aka Thebe, really, to be honest, has come full circle at this point. From his first mixtape causing a rift between him and his mum, to have some rap songs and Feet of Clay being able to be played to her. He's gained an understanding of who he is over a long musical stretch. He now is a therapist, and he's attempting to change his life to become more high functioning. And by that I mean collecting experiences, deeply reflecting on those, and more importantly, figuring out life on his own terms. I think that's the most important lesson from him, that perspective is extremely relative to the situation one's in, and that you as an individual must develop your judgment over time by yourself. At the end of the day, you are not owed anything in life, and only you can change you.